This video is a result of a special request of a teenage viewer who wanted to know how to cook just plain white rice. Well, the only thing dramatic about this video happens to be the title, but let's get started. First of all, I used the least expensive rice I could find. This is it. At the time, at this particular grocery store. Extra long grain enriched rice. We start off with cold water. In other words, the stove is turned off. This is important. Cold water. Now with rice, what you want to do, you want to use 2 cups of water or 2 measuring whatever for every measuring of rice. If you're going to use a cup, 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. That's the formula. That's it. It's as simple as that. In this particular video, what I did, we start off with an empty pan, as you can see. Then we added 2 cups of water, cold water. Remember, the stove is turned off. So we added 2 cups of cold water into this pan. Once we have done that, then the next part of the evolution is to add a cup of rice. The rice I'm using, as I said, came from that store. It was the least expensive rice I could find. I think it was something like $1.49 for a 3-pound bag. I can't remember exactly what the price was, but I do know that it was the least expensive rice. My personal choice when it comes to rice, I happen to like jasmine rice. Be that as it may, we then add a cup of rice to 2 cups of water. Remember, the stove is turned off. Once we have done that, of course, half of our work is done. Honestly, we've added 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water. The stove is turned off. I happen to like butter, so I added some butter. Remember now, everything is still pretty cold. Cold water, 2 cups of water, 1 cup of rice, and a dab of butter. Once that is in, then what we want to do is we want to turn on the stove. We turn on the stove and we start to stir. Now, this is going to take a little while, so use your common sense, really. Keep on stirring until it actually starts to boil. By the way, when it comes to rice, have you noticed that people who live in rice-eating countries are very skinny? Well, they're not all skinny, but they're not fat either, which tells me, in my little layman mind, in my little naive mind, that rice is good for you, but it doesn't put on a lot of weight. I may be wrong, but I'm sure a viewer will correct me. Anyway, once the thing starts to boil, you stir it again, just like I'm doing right here. And once you have done that, see the little bubbles? It's boiling. So now is the time to put your stove on simmer. Incidentally, if you want fluffier rice, then wait until the water boils before you actually add the rice. For fluffy rice, wait until the water boils, then add the rice. Okay, the next part of the evolution, of course, is once the lid is on, is to put it on simmer. A low number somehow. Now, here's a little hint. If, once you put the lid on, it begins to bubble around the lid on the pot, all you have to do is, that's it. You saw that move? Just open the lid a little bit, and that'll take care of that for you. In the meantime, that's it. You wait for about 25 minutes, perhaps 30 minutes, and your rice is done. See, I told you that it was simple. I told you. Okay, so we're all alone, and this is what happened. I wanted to make some codfish fritters from scratch, and I wanted to use just flour, scallion, and codfish. And my idea was a little unique, a little bizarre really. But this is what happened. First, I got some saltfish, codfish, dried codfish, because that's what you make codfish fritters from. And then I had the idea that what if I used hot sauce in water? That way, the spiciness of the codfish fritters would be everywhere without actually using peppers. So that's what I did. I added some hot sauce rather, to the water that I would use to make the fritters. And then I went ahead and shredded the scallion and the codfish into really tiny little pieces because I wanted them to go into the codfish. Then I used regular white enriched flour, just like that. So the ingredients so far is the codfish, the scallion, and the flour. That's it. That's the only ingredients that I have so far. So if you're following, maybe you can make some corrections later based on what I tell you. Then I added the codfish and the scallion to the flour, and I mixed it well. I really mixed it all in well while it was still dry. Then my spice, if you will, my hot sauce in the water. Remember, we added that earlier. I added this hot sauce, I should say the watered hot sauce, to the floured mixture. Remember, it's got a codfish and a scallion in it. So I added the water with the hot sauce to this mixture. Okay, and this is my batter. The batter was the consistency of, say, pancake. That's what it was. And from there, of course, I simply went to the frying pan. By the way, I usually use a garlic, but I didn't have one, so I used a scallion to let me know if the oil was hot enough. And once it started to bubble, I knew it was hot enough. So I dropped my fritters into the hot oil. So far, so good. As a matter of fact, everything went well. I gotta tell you though, I have a funny feeling that the oil was too hot. Is that possible? Anyway, what happened, I dropped these things into the oil, my little codfish fritters into the oil, just like that. And once it was done on one side, of course, the thing to do is to flip them over. So I watched them carefully, but it seemed to me that they were cooking way too fast. The next time I do this, with your comments, by the way, and your suggestions, I will listen to what you say. But the next time I do this, I don't think I'm going to have the oil that hot. I'm going to have it on medium, I think. I think it just simply cooked too fast. So, once they were done on one side, as I said, I simply flipped them over. I tried anyway to flip them over. Now, this is quite a challenge. Maybe you can tell me an easier way to flip these things over so that I don't burn myself. So I flip them over like that, and there. Looks good, doesn't it? Then I took a phone call, and I should never have left these things, because when I took the phone call and came back, see the difference between both sides? This is what it looked like. So that was my error. The texture was not right, and it did not taste right, so I chose not to share it.